Hello and welcome to the Ice King Cast, a place where we discuss RPGs, characters, opinions, and thoughts to escape the monotony of everyday life. My name is, I'm the Ice King, and I am here to talk to you today about something new. This will be, I think, one of the first episodes that actually comes up. So if you're listening, start here. The first thing we're going to talk about today is The Witcher. And I know it's an older topic, but it's kind of been brought back to new by the Netflix series. And I want to kind of describe my journey on the way to getting to the Witcher RPG game, which was a bit of a stretch. So to start off, I was watching recently there was an insurgence of videos on YouTube from the song "Toss a Coin to Your Witcher." If you don't know what that is, go find one. They're all really good, but it doesn't make much sense until you watch the Netflix series. One thing I will say is I'm going to give a shout out to the one version of the song that got me to watch it and get all this started. And that version was by Rachel Hardy. It was one of the only ones I was looking at when trying to, okay, let me finally listen to this song. It's all over the place. I've never touched a Witcher game. I've never even thought about it until I heard the series and go, okay, it's a game. Usually they're bad adaptations, but the song was exploding. So I listened to the Rachel Hardy version because it was the only version that I could see that came up. It was a female version. I'm like, okay, well, this one's unique, so let's try this one. She has the voice of an angel. It's just really, really well done. And it deserves a note. So if you get a chance, check out Rachel Hardy, Toss a Coin to Your Witcher. I very much appreciate it, and I appreciate the journey it's brought me on. Because in the description for it, it even says that it's The Witcher Episode 2 that the song is from, which gave me incentive to watch the show. Once again, never heard or thought of anything of The Witcher. The song didn't make much sense, though it was beautifully done. And I ended up finally taking that plunge and going, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm home from work. Daughter's sick. Let's watch some Witcher. So I decided to watch it, and the first episode got me hooked already. It was great. I ended up getting to the second episode, and the full song isn't there in the episode, just like the chorus isn't there in plenty as it normally is, but it's got a lot of the meat from the beginning. And I'm not going to spoil anything about how it appears, but I will, or when it happens in the episode, but I will say there is a spoiler here too. When it does happen, Geralt of Rivia, who's the main character, for anyone who's also played The Witcher, he actually he looks at the bard who's making this song and says, that's not how it happened. And the bard, I can't exactly remember his reply off the top of my head, but it was a reply saying that history isn't made in truths, something of that nature. And it was a beautiful line, and it makes you think about stories in general, about how they're made, and then your own history. So it was a really good line. After that, something, whatever gods or goddesses or god singular that you worship or don't worship, I don't care, sent me a sign because I got a Steam sale, and one of the first things on the picture was saying The Witcher, and I went, okay, let me look at this. The entire series with all the DLC and everything for all three, whatever it came with, was only $20. So I jumped on it. So mostly I'm going to talk about my first impressions with the game. I mean, I've only played maybe a half hour of it, maybe a little more, because I dilly-dally when it comes to being able to have voice options to kind of hear what all the people are saying. So let's start off with that. And my first experience was I started by playing the first Witcher, because I thought, for anyone who can count, 1, 2, 3 is the order it goes in. So I started with The Witcher 1. And when I started, you could tell it was dated, but that doesn't mean anything. I mean, Final Fantasy VII is extremely dated in its look, but it's still one of the most beloved games out there. So I decided to start playing, and the very first like cinematic was very long. It was very long. It was stupid long for me. Kind of watching, like, okay, I want to play the game. Let's see how this goes. And then it kept me at my attention because it's what happens in that first scene of the first game is something that takes place in the show. So it kept my attention. Like, okay, let's see how this works out differently. There were some slight differences, nothing major, but to the point where it was very well done in the show, to where you could tell it mirrored what it was trying to get to, and they were both very good versions of each other. I think because of how dated the game is, the Netflix version is obviously better, but that's neither here or there. What I would say as well is, so that kept my attention from the beginning, and then as the story started, I wanted to get into the action. So the story was slow, and the problem is because the game was so dated, the way people's facial expressions and things worked was good for that time. When the game was made, they did a good job. But when you're looking back at it, being spoiled as we are, seeing what we've seen, it makes it much harder to go through. And there was a lot of story, which isn't normally a bad thing, but when you're role-playing a character, you want to play the character, at least how you would play them. So the problem is, it kept going. I've made, I think, 2 choices before the first mini-boss, I would say, or boss, who was a wizard that you fight, and the way the combat system worked, especially on PC, was just not entertaining. It was bad. It was probably good at that point in time, based off limited controls and what controls we had, but it was so point and click that it wasn't really worth it. It was hold the button to attack, and when you start attacking, you wait for this symbol and then hit again, and you'll start doing more combos and stuff. You're like, okay, that's cool and all, but it was not dynamic. It was pretty boring and didn't give you much options. I didn't play much further than that, because I had heard before you don't need to be able to continue playing. You could start from any platform, and they usually kind of reach back. Well, and they explain what's happened beforehand. And so I did just that. I researched to see, do I need to play the second one, then third, and go on? How do I do it in conjunction with the books? Because I know the original game was based off of the book series. That was, like, this has been a series that's going on since the late 1980s. That, in my research at least, it's been going on since the late 1980s as a short story that eventually became a full-fledged novel, which inspired the video game, which inspired the Netflix series, because of the books. So it's gone a long way. Then we went to, in my research I found out you can play 3 and not have to worry about the others. I'm like, okay, so what did I do? I played 3 and didn't worry about the others. I didn't need to. There's no need. So I played 3, and as I was going through it, it definitely improved. So much of an improvement on the graphics and how everything was set up and how it flowed forward from there. So for me, I decided to give it a whirl. So I kept going. I got through the beginning story. It was still long, but one thing I noticed before you even started is you can focus more on the role-playing portion of it. Because it was originally a book series, one of the great things they did is you can go story only, story and sword, and then they keep going up from there with more combat orientated play after that. So when you go through the initial part, which is just the story, you don't have to, everything you fight is, you don't have to fight. You don't have to. It's so focused on the story part of it, but you still get to make your decisions. It still makes it an RPG. When we started to make those decisions, they gave you a much larger list. I'm the kind of person who goes through every single voice option because I want to know exactly what everyone says. So I went through and I keep saying we. I played through the beginning, through the initial training. I actually went through the training because I'm like, I had to make sure the combat system wasn't the same. I was told it wasn't, but I had to see. It wasn't. I'm okay with that. It was interesting and somewhat dynamic on how it goes about working. You can use spells inside and outside of combat. Very nice. Very tabletop RPG. Where and how you do things. So the training wasn't bad, and then you see some of the characters. And one of the things I will spoil is that I see Ciri from in the beginning of 3. I'm like, Ciri was the princess in the show who had whose entire kingdom got destroyed and whose fate was bound to Geralt. And it was just a neat, like, oh, I know this person. Just watching the TV series, or the Netflix series, you kind of get a sense of what's going on. Well, after that, you train. She's training to be a Witcher. You're training, or at least you're not. You just can go through training modes of sparring because everyone, you can choose, and that was the great thing. Your choice through it not only decided whether you were going to do the training or not, but it also decided if you were going to do the tutorial or not. It decided everything. It's like, hey, how do you feel about this? Do you want to do tutorial? But if you don't, it opens up a whole another set of dialogue. If you do, it opens up, another set of dialogue. So you get to pick, which I found really great. The other thing was you get to pick what you say to the girl. Now, what makes it replayable from that aspect from the beginning is when you pick something in certain spots, you can't go back. So if you pick something, you picked it. That's the choice and decision you've made. And much like real life, when you make choices, they stick. There's no going back and replaying it like the game, but that's the decision you've made. So I found that really nice under certain circumstances. Another thing that was really neat was and I say really neat, I'm sorry. Some, just how the combat system worked, where you can, it was very fluent opposed to the original, which I felt was very stagnant. In this, you can parry, dodge, you can run around, you can move all over the place, and because most of it seems, at least as far as I've gotten so far, most of it's an open world, so you're not really stuck fighting things in like a pit or a circle like some games where you're just like, haha, you have to leave the circle, there's nothing here, nothing dynamic. No, it's there's the world around you, there's trees, there's things you can dodge, move around. You have 2 different types of swords too. You have a steel sword and a silver sword. Silver sword's for bad guys, big monster bad guys. Steel swords are for human bad guys. And you can upgrade your equipment as you go along. There's a lot of detail added in. A lot of detail into the little spots that you wouldn't think. So as you progress through the game and you get to the beginning, so once again, the whole thing's gonna be spoilers. So if you haven't played the game at all, which I think most of humanity has, I'm the only one who hasn't. If you haven't, then there's still more spoilers ahead. And to start off with, the next one would be that you wake up and it was a dream, because there was some sort of I still haven't gotten far enough to really remember their name. Some sort of like night ghosts that were floating in the sky that are coming after you. They're a dangerous group, and I guess they're the antagonist, or they are going to be. I'm not sure, but you wake up from a dream, and you have a lot of your dream. Ciri was in danger, and he mentions the last time that he was in danger, that she was in danger. Was the last time that he had a dream where something had happened to her. So there was it was nice to see the emotion in The Witcher. And one thing I will say as a side note is that they did a very good job at adapting exactly what he sounded and looked like from the games into the show, into the Netflix series. I was very taken aback by that. But anyway, once he wakes up for this dream, he has a fellow Witcher with him, an older man, who goes along with him, and that you can choose to the dialogue again. This is another one of those choices where you can't go back, where you can talk about your dream or not. If it's your first time playing through, I would say talking about the dream is kind of where you should go to learn a little bit more, especially if you've not played any of the Witcher series yet. If you have, and you can kind of be almost like you see Geralt as in the Netflix series, where he's just very quiet about everything, about everything that's happening. So then the next step would be they get up and they fight some ghouls, and they go to the closest town. He's been ravaged by this war and all these bad omens and things like that. You are looking for Yennefer. I can't remember the township she's from, but her name is Yennefer. She is a witch, or a wizard, or a mage, or however you want to call your spellcasters. I don't care. And as you're going through you're looking for her, nobody knows except for this one really mysterious guy in this bar. But the one thing that I have liked throughout this entire series, aside from the RPG element where your choices are your choices, you can't go back on them, it feels as though whoever the original artist or author was, he's taken into account the thoughts and feelings of everyone. And when I mean everyone, I mean every single lone son of a whatever who's along the countryside even. Every single person has been thought of in the pathway, where there are some works where you'll see everyone stared, or people thought, like, you can hear these people's conversations on the side as you're walking by. It's not just mumble, mumble, mumble. It's it's these guys talking about their goings-ons in life, their prejudices, and how they feel, and it makes it feel more real, like this is an actual world. It's nice. So one of the things you can learn to do is, as I said before, you can use some of these magic outside of your normal, outside of combat, which is something that is really neat, that you can use in combat as well. But it has a different effect outside of combat. It's mostly to kind of coerce people to tell you what they want, or for you to get them to tell you what you want to hear or know. But others around can see you do it. It's almost like forced persuasion from Star Wars. You just wave your hand, these are not the droids you're looking for. Everyone goes, hey, he used the Force. Stop him. So you've got that going on. And that's fun to actually kind of see, because it poses consequences. You do that, and I don't know if it's because you do that or because the people just don't like you. But when you leave this bar, where you can also learn to pay Gwent, which is part of the game, and which is a card game inside the game, and where you meet the mysterious fellow who knows Yennefer. When you go outside, there are these dogs that just want to beat you up. They're like, hey, we don't like a witcher being in our town. Yeah, either get out of here or we'll make you get out. They obviously don't know who they're dealing with. And then you start the fight. Or you don't fight. You can talk your way out of it, probably. I mean, I tried to, and I failed, because I used magic. So, there's that. So, they just also, hey, he using magic. Get him! And they all went after me, and one of the things another part was really nice, was you didn't have to use your sword. You didn't have to just straight up murder these people, because it's probably not a good idea. People don't really like you anyways. If you murder them, they're just not gonna like you more. So there's that. So we had there was the fight scene, and then when I decided to go through, I did a run through. I was just trying to follow the lines, but lines that take you from point A to point B bring you in a weird direction. It brings you to a cemetery where there's a wraith, and it says those with higher levels than yours will have a skull above their health bar, showing you probably aren't ready for them. Yeah, okay, that's fine. Okay, this person's coming at me. Maybe I shouldn't take a whack at it, but before I had a chance to actually run, it knocked me down and hit me twice, and I was almost dead. So I had to bolt, and it follows you so far. Like, it was this wraith just like, leave me alone. And finally, I just took on the horse and I just kept going. And then eventually it left me alone. I looked at my mini-map to see where I needed to go next. And so I just made a beeline to it. Fought some wolves along the way, There was one point where there was a griffin before you actually reached the town that was attacking a horse and a trader who you can kind of coerce money out of, or you can be nice. I mean, I coerce money out of them. It's what you can do that, and it's kind of what I feel like a witcher would do. Oh, well, I could give you some nice advice, but you witches like to be paid, and it's like, I want money. Give me money. And then I'll ask you a question. Hey, did you see this person? So I kind of got best of both worlds. I got whatever I wanted. The next thing was to, you end up going to this outpost, this fortress from an invading army that has, or that had recently taken over the kingdom and has set up shop. Well, one of the things that you did was, one of the things I could do is I ended up being able to scale the wall and get in before I was supposed to. And I tried to follow the little circle where I was supposed to be, but it wasn't letting me in. Found out I had to enter in the correct way for the story to take place. So I had to go back outside, which I jumped over the wall, and then I just ran around to get where I needed to be, and then it started the cutscene I needed to go into. And the last thing I remember was talking to a general in black armor about killing this griffin because he was having troubles. So, and you do the dialogue there. You can be condescending. I was. But it's up to you and how you want to do it, which is great. I also already upgraded my sword from the money I got from the guy. So, like, there's different things throughout the whole thing. Like, it's just like there's a lot to it that's outside of combat again, which is good because it's a story. It's an RPG story where you get to pick your path. Now, are you going to end up in the same spot? Most likely. But is your experience throughout the world going to change? Most definitely. So, wherever you do, or whatever you do, wherever you do it, whatever choices that you've made, things that you've killed, they're going to have rippling consequences. Now, they may not have storyline consequences. They may not exactly have storyline consequences. There might be little things here and there. I don't know. I haven't gotten far enough into it, but I do know that there are consequences for the things that you've done and said. There are going to change. Things are going to change. How helpful people are. How much harder it is for you to go do what you need to do. So there's this nice element to it that makes you think. Is this the right decision for me? Should I do this? Do I want to be the biggest butthole I can be? The answer is yes to all of them. And that's what makes this a good RPG. My first impressions are it's a winner. Why I haven't played more of it? Life. So, with that being said, I definitely am going to be playing more of it to get a better grasp on it. So, if anyone has any thoughts on it, or please let me know. I would definitely say take a look at it for yourself. If you haven't yet, it was on sale on Steam. I don't think it is anymore. It's not super expensive still. It's still like $30 maybe for the main game for The Witcher 3, which is really all you need. And then you can kind of get the DLC from there, the downloadables. You don't have to, though. I haven't even started them. I haven't started anything. All I'm doing is the regular Witcher. I've barely gotten into it. But I do know from other platforms that I've seen so far, including that knowing that there are books out there where it started from, and watching the Netflix series, it's a winner. So I highly encourage anyone who hasn't played it, who does love RPGs, to give it a shot. Try it. Go out there and slay some monsters, you monster slayer. Or you could go play Monster Hunter. You could just go play Monster Hunter. Now, it obviously is not the same thing, but it's, you're essentially, that's kind of what it revolves around, is Geralt, his happenings, and him being a monster hunter, and staying on that path. So, once again, take a look at it if you get the chance. Let me know what you think about it, and hopefully we can talk about it again in the future once I get more into it, once I've understood it a little bit better. I know I don't understand everything, and I'm not going to understand everything yet. There might be ways to optimize it. I don't care about optimization. I just care about having fun in the game, making things maybe a little bit easier so it's not super hard. But if you have any other thoughts, just like I said, once again, let me know if you've got any tips or hints, things I should know, things, ways that I should, maybe some books I should read on it before getting too far into it, or how I should play through the game. Give me your thoughts. This is, we're all about opinions, and opinions, as long as we don't take, or as long as we're not judgmental about others' opinions. I'm 100% to hear them, and I may not follow what you've suggested, but I might at the same time. So once again, it's my decision, but I want you to hear your input. So thanks for listening, and stay frosty.